Hi everybody, it's Alan from Elan Tech Law. Today we're going to talk about IP, and specifically if you're looking for an investment or you're looking for an exit, what are sophisticated IP acquirers or investors going to look for when they're looking at your IP. So the first thing that they're going to expect is that IP has been assigned properly from all the founders into the company. So hopefully that's been done properly right at the outset when you formed your corporation or whatever your corporate structure is. The second, they're also going to look to make sure that all of your employment agreements and all of your contractor agreements, all of those properly and tightly assign IP from those people into the corporation. The next, they're going to look at your registered trademarks and your registered patents or your patent applications that you filed. If you have issued patents, great. So they might not expect registrations for trademarks. They might. It sort of depends. And same thing, they might expect patents or they might not, right? The question they're going to ask is, do you have any, and explain why you do or don't, right? So you need to be ready to answer those questions, and obviously having your full sort of portfolio at your fingertips is going to be important. Otherwise, they'll sort of say, well, why don't you know what you have and don't have? Why is that not something you're tracking and monitoring? Copyright and trade secrets are a little less common. Certainly in text-based copyright, registration is uncommon. You have copyright rights as soon as an author makes something. So as you're typing your code, you've got the copyright in the person that's coding, and then they would be assigning it to the company, right? The next thing is, what are you building your technology on? So do you have licenses, proper licenses, the technology you're using to build your tech on top of, right? So that could be simple stuff like your development environment tools, right? But also, do you have specific pieces of technology that you license in to be able to build your tech? Related to that, do you have any open source, right? So you should be tracking your use of open source and that you comply with the terms of both the licensed in technology and the open source. And in particular for open source, acquirers and investors want to know that you're not using technology or open source material that means you have to give out your source code, right? So that's really important. And you should have a list of all your open source, and you should know how it's being used and making sure that it's not being used in a way that's problematic. Then licensing out to your customers. So what are your license terms? Do you sort of keep track of your IP? Do you license it properly so that you're not giving them more rights than you intend to? Making sure that you haven't granted any ownership rights to your customers. Sometimes it happens, right? Sometimes you have to give those ownership rights, but it should be very uncommon unless you're like a custom development shop, right? Let's see, what else? Right, so escrow, if you have escrow provisions for your source code, that can happen, right? If you're a startup, people might push for that, but you need to make sure that the right triggers for release of the escrow are in place. And then lastly, have you been sued or threatened by any competitors or patent trolls or anything over your IP? So, or over their IP? Have you infringed anyone else's IP, and has anyone infringed yours? So have you had any sort of skirmishes dealing with your IP? People will want to know about that. They'll want to know how you're dealing with that, if you have a team in place around you to help you with that. And in the next week or two, I'll publish a link to an IP audit Excel table that can help you track all these things. And you'll just ingest all your information, and if investors ask for it, you can just send it to them and they'll know that you're on top of things. So any thoughts, happy to hear them, and otherwise I'll talk to you soon.